prompted the State Department to issue that travel warning this week?
The warning came out the day after 3 people tied to the U.S. consulate in Ciudad Juarez were murdered. However, State Department and U.S. officials say talks about issuing some kind of warning were already being had, were already in the works, and that was due to a series of security warnings that had come out of places like Monterrey, Nuevo Laredo, and Reynosa due to shootouts and carjackings that were happening that were thought to be affecting U.S. citizens, that were happening along roads that were along the U.S. border. But as I understand it, even though there have been 2,500 killings, I believe, in the last year and a half so far in Ciudad Juarez, the killings of the Americans and the other person who was tied to the consulate tipped the balance.
Well, people obviously are concerned about that. They hear warnings about it, but they may not have read exactly what the warning said. What did the warning say?
I think in answer to that question, it's important to start with what the warning did not say.
Okay.
And that is that it did not say don't go to Mexico. It did not say don't go to Tijuana. In fact, very little changed for Tijuana compared to the alert, the travel alert that had been issued for Mexico the previous month. What it did say is that U.S. government officials in 6 border consulates in 6 border cities, if they felt like their families were in danger, they had the option to be able to send their families to the United States, and the government would cover the cost of that. And it also, I think it was significant that it's a warning, which is more serious than an alert. So it upped the status for Mexico.
Well, let's talk about the impact on our neighbor, Tijuana, Vicente. The U.S. ambassador to Mexico, Carlos Pascual, called Tijuana a model for Mexico in the fight against drug-related violence. So does that mean that Tijuana is safer?
It's safer because they were able to arrest some of the most important and dangerous criminals who were heading some of those gangs at the beginning in January and in February. It's a continuous effort that is producing good results. And also we have a decrease in the number of drug-related homicides since the beginning of the year. Last year, but we have a spike at the end of the year, and it's down again. It's not over yet. We do have a big problem, but things are showing better results in the case of Baja and Tijuana than in other parts of the country.
Like Ciudad Juarez.
Like Ciudad Juarez. I mean, they have deployed more soldiers there, but the results have not been nearly the same. They have an increase of the number of homicides, the drug-related homicides there, and the situation, they even pulled back the soldiers, and this is what we're seeing.
So here we've had this travel warning that Amy's been talking about. How has it impacted the economy in Tijuana?
Well, the economy has been impacted since the beginning, since the 2001, and it's getting worse with it in 2008 and 2009, not just for the public safety reasons, but also the economic downturn. But since Tijuana was in a way to recover a little bit of that, this will be impacted more because people will not go to Mexico because what they are hearing on the news about the travel warning, many of even the reporters are not reading what Amy just explained to us, and they're saying, oh, the government is telling they take your families out of Mexico. That is not the case. And in the mind of the people is, don't go to Tijuana or don't go to Mexico because we do have a problem, very serious.
The timing is kind of exquisite here because this is spring break time, and the universities have issued warnings to students who are planning to travel to Mexico. So how does this all fit in? If you have the warnings to the kids who are going in for spring break, and then we have the warnings that concern the families, how does that work?
Well, the SDSU didn't actually issue its own warning. To students. It emailed the State Department's warning and said, we suggest that you heed this advice and you don't go to areas of Mexico in the Durango, Chihuahua, Coahuila, which aren't necessarily areas that students go to anyway for spring break fun. But classes and academic programs that San Diego State runs in Mexico, they're not calling students back, and classes will continue to go to Tijuana. One interesting thing is that I think in the larger sense, just in the larger national context of the U.S., it's really forcing the U.S. to take another look at Mexico, and Hillary Clinton, Janet Napolitano, and Secretary of Defense Gates will be in Mexico next week to talk about the drug war strategy there.
And so very, very briefly, this means that perhaps relations between U.S. and Mexico might even improve as a result?
We can hope that they'll improve. I think that it definitely makes the drug war something that the U.S. has to look at even more so now.
Thank you very much. Amy
Thank you.
Isaacson, Vicente Calderon.